So, starting with values, then moves on to growth. People then grow. How can I build? How can I learn more? All that kind of thing. And then the trap is you end up doing too much and it's not sustainable. So the next one was sustainability, which is, it's a bit of a buzzword, but they'd explain it the best. There was multiple factors in there. Some might call them sort of protective factors.
Yeah.
The key one was the shift from self-care to a more holistic idea of looking after youth workers, which is where the Code of Ethics revision shifted to, which I was thrilled about. It's youth worker wellbeing, not self-care.
Amazing.
So, yeah, and some people might say, it's just sort of semantics. We know it's the same thing. So no, but we've got to convey that properly.
It takes time to change.
That's
and
right.
It's like language. That, you know what I mean? We've got to change language to actually change how we do things. And
Yeah, for sure. And I suppose the three pillars of the self-care or well-being that the different research participants talked about was all the stuff that we always get told about our own individual responsibility. Have things outside of youth work, hobbies, whether it's exercise, diet, sleep, all of those kinds of things. The danger I think I found is that when it starts and stops there, like how are you looking after yourself as your responsibility? The other two were organisational responsibilities, and not just the throwaway line of, we have EAP available and that kind of thing. And that's not trivialising that; it's important. But that on top of other things like, it's one of the things people talked about. They said, if you're not looking forward to going to a meeting and feel good about things after that meeting, you've got to question why you're having that meeting. A meeting should be a gathering to discuss things, share things, vent, problem solve, check in, support, leave feeling better.
Absolutely, yeah. Not just to go over the same kind of stuff, to get a resolution, to plan something, right? Otherwise, I mean, you're going to do like case discussions and stuff. You're going to do some check-ins, but I agree with that one.
Yeah, and why are they weekly? Why are they monthly? They always have been. That's, okay, well.
That's just how we do things.
Yeah, so it's really broad organisationally, and then personally, whether that's your partner, your dog, your family, your friends, all of your social networks. So part of the youth workers' self-care was their personal support network as well. So, and that's been really helpful for me with teaching students. It's broader than when you finish work, you need to leave work at work. And we all know that. I haven't found one youth worker that's been good at doing that. You learn to get better at it, but you also don't want to go, work's finished now and I'm this person at work and I'm not that person at home. Because the whole kind of work-life balance argument didn't really fly with this research. It was more about work-life integration. That youth work is sort of it's because it's a value base of you as a person. It's an extension of who you are. So it's just something that you go and do. During the day, the night, whenever it is that you work.
Yeah.
And you're a pretty similar person, maybe somewhat different, but pretty similar values and principles and that kind of thing. So it's not to say that, you don't leave work at work and you go and keep on working outside of your paid work hours. It's a balance. But it's not balancing life with work. Work as a youth worker is part of your life. So it's an integration of those things rather than separating them and balancing them. But the three areas of the individual youth worker, how's the organisation looking after their youth workers on so many different levels, and then in your personal, family relationships, all of those things. There's probably some kind of framework to build around that.
It's like it's a collaboration of different things, and the individual responsibility for me is like I got to look after myself and be healthy, but that won't change if I then go into an organisation that's not putting good things in, like safety in place for me. But then again, like if I'm just looking at the organisation and not looking after myself, then it's like it's a dance,
It is, and collaboration's a good word.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, youth worker wellbeing, it takes all of it's a shared responsibility, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like you got to kind of, and I guess that's the previously with the stigma around mental health is like you wouldn't share that with your boss because you're worried that you're going to get fired, and I'm sure that has absolutely happened and maybe still continues. But yeah, I think when you have a safe leader and you have a safe organization, it makes a big difference. So
yeah, and there's been a lot of headway in that from when I started and before my time as well. Yeah, that was certainly the approach. Yeah, yeah. And like all things, it's shifts. You know, it's still a lot of work to be done, but yeah, there's been a lot of progress in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's an interesting study. Who was the longest serving youth worker that you spoke to? Do you remember how long they'd been in the game?
Oh, I reckon close to 50 years. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, close to 50 years. And, all from different states around Australia and different backgrounds in terms of their education and their pathway into youth work. So, very, very experienced, wise, made mistakes, learnt from some, not learnt quickly from others.
Wow.
Yeah. So just really fantastic to engage in that. And I think for anyone that's that does research or is perhaps looking at doing research down the track or wants to be involved, one of the really difficult things is then looking at that as data. After you've had that conversation, sort of separating the person that you've talked to from the transcribed words and trying to make codes and themes and that kind of thing out of that, which I don't think is altogether bad because it keeps the human element of it. But yeah, I found it very difficult to looking at and certain people use certain words in certain ways. So yeah, that was really challenging, but really fun. Yeah, really fun. So yeah, it was a great experience for me getting to listen to these people.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and some of the stories they had to share and tell, and the tangents we went on. Some were hilarious, some were heartwarming, some were heartbreaking. Yeah, just a real mixed bag. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess kind of what you're highlighting, it's so important what you're doing with that, because if you look at other industries, I don't know, social work, psychology, for instance, they've had years and years of research, a lot longer than youth work, right? So we're just kind of at that space, perhaps, where we need more research to show what we do, to highlight the importance of youth work. And
yeah, I think so. I think there's different elements to it. Being a niche, or what I argue is that youth work's a niche profession, and there's costs and benefits with that. But I don't see that, following the traditional profession building that you've seen in law, medicine, and the clergy, the other sort of large professions have done, big staff cohorts, lots of degree programs, lots of academics, these kinds of things. I don't see why every profession should follow that pathway. I think as a niche profession, youth work's doing very well in slowly, gradually, sustainably. Some people might argue otherwise, but that's okay. Having professional associations, having codes of ethics that are youth work driven, when they're revised, they go straight back to the youth workers. They're not, these principles that are held over youth workers and said, "Oh, you didn't do this today, so you might be getting a formal warning because you didn't do what you signed up to do." It's driven from this, niche self-identifying, but not just self-identifying, identified by the community, and most importantly, identified by young people. They go, "Yep, you're a youth worker." That's a more discourse approach to youth work as a profession. And that's the way that I see it, because if you take something like social work, which people often argue is the closest profession to youth work. I'm not sure that it is, but there's definitely some parallels. Social work, social workers work across the whole lifespan. They'll work with someone that's 1 year old, someone that's 100 years old. Youth workers don't. Youth workers have got a small section of the population that they focus on, and they approach that that segment of the population in very specific relational, primary consideration, all of those things, ways that perhaps social work and other professions don't.
Yeah.
So in that sense, that something like youth work's never going to be as big as social work or a psychology or what have you, because it's a niche. It looks after very much like quality over quantity. Looks
Absolutely.
after a demographic of the population. So why would we try and emulate or pursue what others are doing when we're not the same fit? So I suppose, going back to the we need more research and that kind of thing. There has been a lot of research and definitely academic history with youth work. Perhaps just not the volume of something like a social work or psychology. So, yeah, for me, it's really looking at what needs to be the focus rather than sort of spreading yourself too thin.
Like what's next? What do we want to uncover or find out more about? What might that be? Do you have any?
So I guess my work on youth work careers, I think, was really needed, because the existing literature before I did that work was all negative, deficit. It was youth work's not a respected profession. People do it for a couple of years and then they burn out. Low salary, poor working conditions, and I thought, okay, is that 100% true? Is that outdated? There's some truth to it, but there's been a lot of work to improve those conditions.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So is it it's either not respected or it is respected. Is it more respected than it used to be? If so, what are the conditions that have brought that about? As per you would expect from youth work academics, a lot of the research has been around young people, and rightly so. But what about the youth workers?
Yeah, gotcha.
What about their perspectives? So, more work around that. And then, the other thing that I've picked up on recently is the social media ban, sort of being responsive to what's happening right now. And there's quite a bit of good research and study going on around the social media ban. And for me, it's around linking that to what are the underlying sort of rationale and discourse that drives that, like why have we as a society gone, yeah, I think that's good, we should just kick this cohort off something where they have been using it. How's that worked for prohibition in the past with alcohol? How would that work for any other population group that is experiencing harm from something? For us to go, oh, well, that demographic, not age-based, let's say gender-based. There's a lot of gender-based violence. So we'll just say that all women are no longer, I don't know, allowed in nightclubs. For their own good. So that that logic behind it, which the more you dig into it, becomes very illogical.
And the stats don't really add up to suggest that it's doing that much damage.
No, not at all. And of course, you can find damage with anything. You can sitting down at a desk for too long is incredibly damaging.
It's like smoking.
It's
the new smoking.
Yeah, that's right. There'll always be things that humans do that cause us harm. And one of the things that I love to discuss with students in the degree program is tell me the things that humans do where they take risks and that cause them harm and they learn from it and what have you. And all the things that are brought up, it's often considered, oh, that's a young person, that's a teenage behaviour. It's not. The most recent report around drug-related harm, the average age of accidental drug overdose in Australia is 55. That's
Wow.
shifted from a late 30s to mid 40s.
Okay.
It's 55. The cohort that's at the least risk of accidental drug overdose is 14 to 19.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I'm by no means advocating if you're young, use drugs, go for your life. Of course not. But when you look at the stat, as you said, the stats they don't add up. They do not add up. And so you go, who's doing a better job of managing risk? Who should be educating who about risk? I always say when all these federal or state approaches come out around, we've got to educate our boys around the manosphere and this kind of thing. So, okay, yes, there's certainly some room for that. Talk to young people that they're quite well aware of. They're quite well aware of what's going on in the world, more so than older generations, and I think that's one of the really important things in youth work is bridging understanding between generations.
Yeah,
there's this whole sort of and as far as I know, it's always been a thing, hasn't it? Where the older generation doesn't understand the next generation and they ridicule them, and vice versa.
Yeah.
You get young people saying, okay, boomer, and older
Karen.
people, Karen, these kinds of things, and it becomes a cultural phenomenon. And it's like, but if you actually really step back and look at it, all humans have got far more in common than we do different. And that's one of the crucial things, I think, theoretically in youth work, and then to go and do that in practice. So many ways you can do that in practice. Yeah.
Oh, and especially with the social media, we put them in that environment. They were raised in it. It's not like they created this. Who created that?
No, I love that point because it's like the recent increased hours for LP plate drivers. It's for their own good. So they can. It's like young people didn't choose to drive in the environments like this. Young people didn't design. Well, young guy did, but not a young person, not a younger person. And en masse didn't go, I've got a really good idea. Let's create this thing called social media where people can use it to exploit, to groom, to sell product or whatever. They didn't invent that. The adult world invents it. Like, I don't think a 14-year-old invented the vape. I think that was adults that invented the vape.
Yeah.
There's all these adult inventions, markets that are created and then imposed onto young people, and then young people are blamed for their engagement with it. And our national strategy, like many around the world, is one of harm minimisation. And things like ill-conceived bans do not fit well with harm minimisation.
No.
I think one of the key arguments is as soon as you say no, you can't legally do that, and people will still want to do it. You've criminalised something. And
exactly.
that creates a new harm. And
also drugs, they're illegal, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And they're still going pretty strong. I can imagine.
Yeah, exactly right. And as I was saying, that latest report, there's been an increase in drug use in middle-aged people, and more overdose.
That's very interesting.
The past 5 years. Yeah.
And I guess this is completely me making this up, but 14 to 19, if it was the lowest, it's like, well, is that because is that in today kind of 2026, 2025 times that study?
That's the latest. But that's been pretty consistent. That's been pretty consistent in if you have a look at ABS data. It's right there. You'll see that the younger people, even the early 20s, don't overdose from drugs as much as middle-aged adults, and most of those overdoses are alcohol and prescription medication.
Very interesting.
It's not meth, heroin. It's not illicit drugs.
And that's why it's so important to get a clear understanding of what's happening, because if you go in as a youth worker thinking all this risk, like young people, like social media, drugs, you're then gonna project onto them, and you know what I mean? You're gonna not allow them to have a good experience in the work that you do with them. For sure. And
sort of entry point into that is analysis of media,
Yeah.
and it's a really good entry point. And then critical analysis of language, and that's something that we do. If you talk to any first year students or completing first year students in our degree program, they'll be able to tell you straight away the theory, and they'll go, yes, I've done this about 1 million times this year. They love it, don't get me wrong. But it's really interesting when, you know, a 14-year-old, what was the young guy who he swum out and saved his family?
Oh, yeah.
14 or 15 or something
Yeah.
like that. The language that's used, you know, inspirational young man, and then a 19-year-old is involved in a crime, teenager, you know. You don't think 19's a legal adult.
Yeah.
But because it ends in teen, we use teenager. So you follow that path down. And Howard Sercombe did, I think it was for his doctoral thesis, actually. He did one of the biggest studies in WA of doing that. And his conclusions were that young people get an absolute raw deal of exaggeration, overgeneralization, misrepresentation through depictions in media of crime, of substance use, of you know, what we like to call antisocial behaviour, all of these kinds of things. You know, for every story of a young person committing a crime, there should be, you know, 50 to 100 of adults committing crime for that one story. If there's one drug overdose at a festival, there should be another 7 stories of middle-aged adults overdosing on alcohol or sleeping tablets or anxiety medication that week. So our perceptions, our
just
reality,
doesn't sell as well to do it about
no,
an adult,
it doesn't.
you know
And
what
isn't that sad?
Yeah.
But it's also ironic that, you know, the term teenager was made up as a marketing term to create a culture to sell product to. And I found that a really fascinating thing when I first saw, because things become normalized, and
that's probably why young people, like, the language around that was kind of started to go against that teenager kind of.
Yeah. So I really struggle with terms like teenager, and when young people call themselves one, and
the youth.
Yeah, the youth or a youth.
Yeah.
Yep. I was reading the other day that there was a gang of youths at a shopping centre. So I'm not sure if it was they were an affiliated gang. It was probably a group. Were they doing the wrong thing? Yes. Does that mean that they have signed up to be in a gang? No. So yeah, languages, and this has stayed with me for a long time, and it will stay with me for a long time to come. A very wise young guy that I was working with, he read a book, and he was quite young actually, and he goes, I read this book, it was called such and such, and me not being 100% engaged, we're just chatting about a book, don't have to do any critical youth work here. I said, oh, what was it about? And he sort of paused and he goes, John, it's not important about what the book was about. What's important is what I got out of reading it. And I stopped and went, yeah, you're absolutely right. I said, so what did you get out of reading it? And he goes, well, what I got out of reading it was that words and language are the most powerful things we have. And words can do so much damage. And I said, oh, that's a real deficit kind of negative, isn't it? And he goes, no, it's not, because if you flip that, if words can hurt that much, imagine how much they can heal if you use the right ones. And that, you know, that's an example of me going, I'm supposed to be the youth worker helping you, saving your life, you know, all these things I thought youth work was.
Yeah.
And I'm going, you've just enlightened me about, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that view of not saying don't use this word and don't use that word. It's like, what's that convey? Like, what power, what meaning's that conveying, and what could we shift to instead? Like self-care to youth worker wellbeing. Like primary client to primary consideration. That's I think a fantastic shift in our code of ethics.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. and like teenager to young person. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm seeing more and more people. They're learning. Even someone the other day was talking about the systems people are in around self care, and they challenged it, and I was like, it's really good to hear that because I don't always hear it, and it's not to attack, it's just like more education and awareness. Yeah, it can take us further. So
yeah, for sure. It's like at its heart, I think youth work is about embracing the human experience of curiosity. Like engaging with young people as people that are curious about the world. And with curiosity comes mistakes, comes risks, all of that kind of thing. And the harm minimization in that is who's someone that I've got that's trusted that I can go and discuss that with, that I'm not going to hide that from in case I get punished or in case, So, yeah, embracing that curiosity. And you see that in real, babies and infants. They're the most, they're just the exemplars of human curiosity. The whole world is new to them. And I think that the better a job we can do as humans to not lose that as we go and think that we know it all and have learnt it all, the more we'll progress and understand. Yeah,
absolutely. So with some of the work you're doing in ECU, how long's the youth work degree?
So it's a 3-year degree. There's pathways. I've got really good relationships with North Metro TAFE in particular, and so there's pathways through diplomas in youth work, and also with field experience in youth work for recognition of prior learning and credit through experience and that kind of thing. So, yeah, but it's a 3-year full-time degree. It can be studied on campus, online, or hybrid,
fully online
mode. Yeah, you can do fully online. Yeah, yep. And then we've just restructured the course as well, so it's got more core content built into it, and less electives. So it used to have less core content and more electives. We've brought in some units, one from social work around very broadly mental health, all things mental health. We've integrated case management with ethics, so we've brought in case management frameworks. We've got a new criminology team have developed a youth justice a youth justice unit.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yep. So within those units, that students will look at a broad spectrum of different rationales and explanations and theories of things like youth crime and youth justice. From biological understandings through to more sociological understandings, and they can develop that critical thought around that. And then at the crux of the youth work specific is our youth issues unit, which looks at breaking down myths around young people.
Which is super important.
Analysing the media and that kind of thing. And then principles of youth work, which is all about the actual practice and the field of youth work that prepares them for their placement. And then theories of youth work and inclusive youth work practice. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Mm.
Is there any trends or anything that you're seeing with people coming through the youth work courses in terms of, where you think they might take youth work into the future and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. There's people have all kinds of ideas and plans and as I did, I said I want to work in youth mental health, and I remember my lecturer, or a couple of my lecturers at the time, so what do you mean by that? Anywhere you work, you're going to be working with young people and mental health. So youth work is sort of it's not so much about a service. Of course, some are, but a service being built around one issue in particular. When I worked in homelessness, that's why I really resonated with the saying, homelessness is not about housing, which is kind of a silly thing to say, but you know what I mean? It's not about, okay, you don't have a house, here's a house. It's all of the other interconnected issues, right? So I suppose, so there's sort of trends or fads kind of come and go. At one point, everyone wanted to work in alcohol and other drugs, and then counselling. I want to be a school counsellor was a big one. And now not everyone, but generally that there's quite a push to, I want to be a youth worker in a school. And there's been a lot of work done.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work done around youth workers in schools. So I think sort of where people think they want to work compared to sort of where they end up working.
Yeah.
I think that youth work, it's like looking through a door with a peephole. You look through and you go, I want to work there. And then as you do the degree and you go and do placements, because our placement coordinator does a brilliant job. She really works with students around, okay, you want to be a youth worker in a school? If that's suitable for you, no problem, we'll do that. But your next one, you're not going to be in a school setting. You're going to be doing something completely different.
Yeah.
And it might not be something that you think you want to do. It might be something that's going to push you. And it's amazing. People go, I thought I wanted to do that, but no, outreach work I didn't even know it existed. And that's brilliant. I love it. Fallen in love with it.
Yeah.
So,
got to challenge that. You got to try new spaces because
even
when I was first coming into the industry, was being told just around some of the child protection stuff that it's a really hard space, and I avoided that. And then when I did it, I was like, this is the best. Not to take away that it's not tough. Everywhere's a bit tough, but if anyone's watching, please just do something that if you're feeling you don't want to do it, then go do it.
For sure.
It's worth a try.
For sure, and that's one of the things that I found was really consistent that sustained youth work careers was actually the diversity and the the different kinds of job that you can do, and that's where it really challenged some of those orthodox career theories. Is that in that you don't have your entry level job and you progress. You go, right, I've worked in the school setting for 3 years or what have you. And I was talking to Tim and he was talking about working in a youth centre. I hadn't worked in a youth centre, and some of the issues that I faced with working in a school, maybe that might be different in a youth centre. I might try that. And then you might do outreach work, you might do some management, you might do some strategic work, some advocacy stuff. You might work in housing. Like I said very early on, I said, I couldn't see myself working in homelessness. I think cumulatively did 8 or 9 years in different homelessness services, from crisis to medium term and then back to crisis stuff, but a different setting of crisis. So, and that's where, as a profession, it's not issue-based or topic-based, is it? It's whatever the young person or the community throws up or experiences, or that's what the work is.
100%. Yeah, the more I 8 years doing this and I still don't know a thing. Every day's a learning experience, but the more I do learn, the more I'm just at a point where I'm like, I just want to work with any young person. I don't really care what issues there are. I just need the tools and the environment to do that. But reduce the barriers and just I just want to work with anyone that wants the support.
Every person's a new unique opportunity, challenge, experience. And I think a lot of like when I sort of first started, I didn't really realize, but I was sort of working from a position that I had theoretically said I don't want to work like that, and that was and not that there's anything wrong with this by any stretch, but it was a more pragmatic approach to, you're not going to school, let's get you into school. You don't have a job, let's get you a job. Let's fit you into what exists, rather than let's try and understand what's your unique life, what's your unique pathway or future. And it reminded me of I certainly won't mention any names, but a teacher that said to me, what do you want to do for work experience? And I said, well, the thing that I'm best at is music. And the teacher said, well, you can't. You can't get a job as a musician. And I started to argue and say, well, what what about this guitar player, and what about this singer, and what about, lots of people have had very good, successful careers as musicians, and it's sort of like, yeah, but you probably won't. You've got to choose from this finite. It's like, no, but that's that's what I see. If I get it wrong and I don't make it, I get it wrong and I don't make it. I'll find another path. But what's everyone's unique path? What's their aspirations? What are they good at? How do you know what you're good at? Like I never knew that I was good at long jump at school until the boy that won it all the time hurt his ankle, and they said, "Oh, we need someone else." I'll do it, and I jumped really far. I went, "Oh, I didn't actually know I could do that." So, how are we sort of limiting people to the funding and the outcomes and the worldviews that we want to put them into? And that's easier said than done. And there's certain pragmatic things that you have to do, and there's value in that as a youth worker. But again, that curiosity about, who are you? Who have I got in front of me here? Who am I? I'll share a bit of that with you as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we want people to find happiness in their lives, and some of those things come along with work and education and stuff. But the music one is a great point. It's like, oh, you want to do social media? Oh, like, okay, cool. Like, do you know how to make YouTube videos? Do you know how to edit a video? Like, I'm very big on that, because I guess in the past I've definitely been like, oh, that's really hard to get into. Like, and then as I grew and learned, like, it's not about me and my opinion. Just give someone that opportunity to take something on. So
that's right. And if they'll soon realise if it's beyond them, or where they're situated, there's not the opportunities for it, or maybe they need to move, or maybe it's not working practically for them because they're not making enough money from it. And if humans are good at one thing, for better or worse, we adapt to survive, don't we? So
absolutely.
And it's not, it's not what are your hopes and dreams? Let's pursue that without the hard work and the reality of it, is it? It's okay. Yep, you're good at that. You're interested in that. It's probably a good place to start, is what someone's good at and what they're interested in.
Best way to start, I reckon. It is. Find some of those strengths.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll kind of wrap it up and ask, have some final reflections around youth work. Can you kind of touch on where you could see youth work going, what you would hope to see? And just any reflections that you can provide.
Well, I'll probably say 100 things, but no, honestly, like my life has been wonderful in with everything I've been involved in youth work, and when you sit back and you reflect on the want of a better term, the legacy that you leave. How many people's lives have you been involved in? The privilege to be able to professionally just get to know people that otherwise you wouldn't, and maybe support them to know themselves better, to get to where they might want to in life, to open up the ideas. I remember driving around with a bunch of young guys to different skate parks around Perth, and they were filming themselves doing safety tips and tricks and stuff like that. They had a crew name or something. It was pretty cool, but I can't remember it. And we're driving past UWA, and all of a sudden they started. I could hear them in the back of the bus saying, stuff like, "Oh, this is where all the rich live," and one of them said, "Oh, imagine if we went into that university with our skinny jeans and our skateboards and stuff." And I thought, no, but I pulled the bus up and I said, how do you think people in there would react to you? I said, oh, well, they'd all be in their suits and ties and going, oh, who are these guys? So I said, oh, well, let's let's go and see. Let's see if your hypothesis is true. And so we walked into UWA, and there's people dressed in all different ways from all walks of life. There's some people, lying on the grass, chilling, reading. Some guy was juggling, whatever, and they're sort of walking around going, "Oh, is this what a university is like?" Oh, they said, "I thought it'd be like Hogwarts, like they'd all be in." Dressed in the gowns and whatever. So it's that learning through life and jumping on those experiences, like when they come up, rather than always sticking to the pre-planned program. Like we got back a lot later that day, but what they got out of that was, no, there's more to the world than perhaps I see. And that's true for all of us. So I think what I see with youth work is, I think like youth work in WA is in a really good place. So we've got really good alignment with the courses and the educators. More research is needed, but it always will be.
Yeah, definitely.
We of course need more youth workers. There's young people now that need youth workers. The industry is really resilient and adaptive. Things change all the time. The kinds of partnerships that have been built and forged over the years, some of that stuff is amazing. And some of the social movements and activism and stuff that's come out of not just youth work, but youth work partnering with other professions as well. And I think that's where I've really been optimistic with youth work, is that other professions are understanding youth work better, but we've got to also respect and understand the strengths and limitations of other professions. Of teachers, of psychs, of counsellors, of the police. Rather than all sort of arguing over our patch and the police of this and teachers of that. We're all part of the social ecology of a young person's life or within a community. So, I think we're in a really good place, and the Youth Work WA as the professional body, and YACWA as the peak for youth affairs, and you see it when we have the things like the Youth Work conference and lots of different speakers, and it's great to hear people from the field coming and talking about what they do, what their challenges are, what they've learnt. So, as much as we're funded differently, and there's different organisations, and organisations compete for funding, I think youth work is it's an eclectic but a strong group of people, and it's the people at the heart of it. If you took the people out of it, it's not a profession anymore. Yeah. So, ideally, I'd like to really keep on strengthening the access of youth workers to pursue their degree and further study and be involved in research more. And I think that'd be my sort of last point, is that any research that I do, I really want to make sure that it's something that's meaningful and helpful in some way, shape or form for young people, and collaborations with the field. Like I could never see myself being somebody that's disconnected from from the field of youth work and the lives of young people, which gets harder as you get older. But and I suppose I stay connected with a lot of the students that are younger coming out of school, but certainly with organisations and Youth Work WA and people like yourselves and people that are out there every day doing youth work.
Well, excellent. I really appreciate you coming and having a yarn, and
likewise.
I'd love to have you back on eventually again. But yeah, thanks for your time, and all the best.
Much appreciated. Thanks for having us, Tim.
No worries.
Thank you.